NFL podcast. Are we generic bros?
Sometimes. Welcome to another edition of the Around the NFL podcast. My name is Dan Hansis. I come to you from a virtual room filled with some heroes. Mark Sesson, Greg Rosenthal. What is up, boys?
We made it. You know, week 15, you got the Saturday games. It means we're really here. We're really here. The
what does that mean? Where are we?
I don't know what that means.
We're to the point of the season where, like, Mark Sessler is like, okay, we've made it to mid-season. That he can start planning his off-season a little bit. We're towards the end.
I think that's accurate. I mean, because you can sneaky think like, hey, there's all these tentpole moments that we've, there's still like 9 more weeks of grueling action to get through. And
Grueling.
I don't see midpoint or anything at this point. Just keep rolling, put on the blinders and keep flying, Dan North.
Yeah. And I mean, in past years, you can start to peek ahead because we're very lucky to have these jobs. We know that. It's awesome working for the NFL and talking about football for a living. But by the time you get to the middle of December, there is a grind element to it. And then you take that little peek. Let's get through when there's all these bad teams playing and then the fun little playoff jaunt. and then you have a little bit of time to yourself to plan things, as you say. But no, there's no planning. There is a staggering pandemic upon us as well. So maybe we should just like stay in this world, live in this little bear den that we're in, and try to enjoy it. Because once football's gone, then what do we have? What do we have?
That's a good point.
Good
Yes.
advice.
The Australian Open starts like minutes after the Super Bowl ends. So there you go.
Oh, there we go. So everyone is all set. Yes, this is week 15. This is our preview podcast where we go through every single game to come. Thursday in the books. But we have 2 Saturday games. Always fun. Always liked Saturday games. I'm glad it came back. I felt like it was gone for a little while there, right? Earlier or in the middle of last decade. And now it's back, and it does remind me of the holiday season. I enjoy it, and I sit down, and I might have, a Tito's. I might enjoy myself a little bit in a way that I don't when it's Sunday. So looking forward to that. And then a big slate of games on Sunday into Monday. And we do this when we go through the games draft style. And it just so happens that the old Zusa has the first overall pick, and then sitting right there.
Just so happens.
Staring him in the face. Potentially the game of the year. Kansas City Chiefs at New Orleans Saints. Whoa, potential Super Bowl preview in the Superdome. And what's not to love about this game? You have the Chiefs absolutely flying high. One loss all season. Patrick Mahomes, even last week against the Dolphins when he threw 3 interceptions, still showed how mighty he can be. And the rest of the team as well. McCole Hardman with the return for a touchdown. The defense getting stops when necessary. But, the Saints are the team that is more interesting to me right now. And we could start there, Greg, because we don't know quite what's going on with the quarterback situation right now. But the Saints have their first loss in 2.5 months. Which version of the Saints shows up against a Super Bowl champion?
I think a great version. I think people have given up on this Saints team too quickly. They are number 1 in DVOA on Football Outsiders for a reason. They have been a top 5 franchise for the last 4 years. It is so hard to have that level of consistency. And right now, they're kind of the Saints team that Saints fans always wanted, like one that can win with defense and an offensive line and a defensive line. And yeah, you lost in Philly. That was an embarrassing loss. But proud teams respond. And I'm like, hearing all these Saints fans that are just chalking this up as an L, like, oh, wow, it's like, oh, Teddy Bridgewater and Derek Carr and Drew Lock and Tua, had Chiefs on the ropes or in a close game in the fourth quarter. But, oh, my gosh, the Saints couldn't possibly win a game against the Chiefs. And this game doesn't even matter to the Chiefs. I think that means something in December. Which game does it matter for more? The Chiefs can lose this game and still win home field advantage. It's a big game for the Saints.
I'm with you, Greg, in the sense that I feel like Saints fans are real down on the team right now. And, Sean Payton acknowledged last week against Philly that their first half, that was the flattest half of football they played all year. I thought they bounced back pretty well in the second half. That had a lot to do with, the Eagles secondary being shredded by injuries. But this is a Chiefs defense that is, I think, they're very productive and underrated. But they're giving up the 10th most yards to mobile rushing quarterbacks. So that's not terrible for Taysom Hill. I'm with you. I think that the Saints show up to this and are being a little bit undervalued nationally right now. I think that's a lot to do with football has so much recency bias that sometimes we almost refuse to even peer back beyond the most recent game. And that was, Jalen Hurts brought a lot of electricity to Philadelphia. No tape on the guy, and that can be a challenge. And I think that maybe threw the Saints off a little bit. I think they'll respond. There's a lot of tape on the Chiefs. The problem is the Chiefs, when they, even like last week against the Dolphins, when they stumble into their own mistakes, they're so elastic, they find a way to bounce back. I wonder if the Saints get into a hole offensively, can they bounce back?
I feel like we're tilting at windmills a little bit, acting like everyone doesn't believe in the Saints anymore. They had one loss, but they came off a 9-game winning streak before. The Saints are fun. Saints are awesome.
It's Taysom. It's Taysom. It's
Taysom, and I get it. And he has the thing about Taysom right now is that you don't know what have we learned about Taysom Hill in these starts so far. I feel like I'm still kind of in the same place. I guess I have a little bit more confidence in him, in his ability to throw the ball and drive the ball downfield. He's not a totally one-dimensional guy. This is not Tim Tebow by any stretch. So that I learned. But did I learn that this guy is a true, franchise-level quarterback who can be the guy that replaces Drew Brees. I don't feel any more confident about that, and I don't think Sean Payton probably does either. If you asked him privately, like Mark, I know you and Sean Payton have rubbed shoulders literally at the scouting combine in the past. I don't know if you ever asked him that question, but it does go back to a little bit. The Chiefs are so explosive on offense. If they get out to a quick lead in this game, I don't think a Taysom Hill-led offense is going to be able to combat that.
Well, we're taping
that was
early,
a very brief encounter
what about
with Sean Payton. Well, we touched very briefly. That's the last head coach that I had physical contact with. He shared no secrets, but he did tell our friends Steve Weiss and Jim Trotter that, he hinted on their show that he thought that Drew Brees, this was probably the last season. He intoned that, and that Jameis Winston would have a full chance to compete against Taysom Hill. So I think that tells you a lot.
I think, it's early in the week, but Brees was activated from injured reserve. He's throwing the ball at practice. They need to win this game. If Brees has any chance to play, you're going to play him this week and try to get that home field advantage. So we might see him, and it's the rest of the team that needs to step up. The Chiefs, by the way, could be missing their top 3 tackles. Eric Fisher now has a back injury. Mitchell Schwartz hasn't been there for a while, and this is not a defensive line in the Saints that you want to be banged up front. This has not been a perfect Chiefs team. They're great. They get it done. They win week after week, but I can't call them dominant when the defense has as many holes as they have. And right now their offensive line has some struggles.
Yeah, and we're still waiting to see the Chiefs blow the doors off teams for 4 quarters. Maybe that's just not who they are. They do tend to lose focus sometimes, but this might be the type of game where they're going to be so up for it and know the spotlight, and it's a Tony Romo, Jimmy Nantz game, that they are going to deliver that 4-quarter effort. And you know what? You don't get a chance when we do our lock games. We don't get the chance to lock up the Chiefs too often, okay? Because they're such heavy favorites that we have a mirror test. And we say, if you can't look in the mirror and lock a game up in good faith with yourself, don't do it. Well, when it's a game like this, when it's a NFC favorite, absolutely, I can look in that mirror and say, the Chiefs will win, and I will lock it up in Week 15. And I'm feeling pretty confident, Mark, coming off my lock-off victory with the Ravens over your Brownies. So let's fly.
Well, I like that. You're not going to be having a lock-off with me this week because I'm going to be following suit. I have not locked the Chiefs up all season, and I'm about to do it right now. And I don't really care what you think, Dan. It doesn't bother me at all what you think. Go Chiefs, lock it up.
You're both going down. I picked the Saints to win this game. I'm not locking them up, but you're both going down. I picked the Saints to win this game. I'm hoping that Drew Brees is back. If Drew Brees isn't playing, I might flip that pick. But I really think if they have Brees and he's anywhere close to 100%, they have a good chance to win this game. They are a better overall team and can win different sorts of ways. I don't think it's a questionable lock at all.
We don't need to hear about you picking the Saints if you're not locking up the Saints. Come on in.
Right.
Let's do this.
They keep the record, on NFL.com. That's enough.
I typed something on NFL.com.
You're
we'll
matching
see. Yeah,
Saints
please,
colors.
That's right.
Just go with it.
No.
I
don't succumb to peer pressure. You know me enough for that.
All right. We're just getting warmed up. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. All right, the draft now moves to Mark Sessler.
All right, I'm going to go take an early game. Patriots at Dolphins. I continue to be intrigued by this Dolphins team. I mentioned last week that I thought they were up for anything. I didn't guarantee that they would beat the Chiefs, but I thought they played them tough. And a lot of the elements that we've seen from Miami showed up in that game. And, we were on this beat a while ago, Greg, and I'm going to mention a research packet that our research team put out showing all the parallels between this Dolphins team and the 2001 Patriots. And I thought it was interesting that Brian Flores this week.
We're still doing the 2001 Patriots Dolphins.
Our
thing.
Research department is now doing it. And believe me, I think actually the parallels exist. If you would like to,
go ahead.
I'm not the Elias Sports Bureau, but they suggest as much. And, Brian Flores this week was asked, are you a defensive coach? He said, hold on, I'm not a defensive coach. I'm just basically a football coach. I care about offense, defense, special teams. And that sounds like total coach data speak, except the Dolphins are that team week after week. And I think that Belichick sees that and recognizes that. The Dolphins right now, you've got the Pats, the Raiders, and the Bills to close your season. That is a rough and tumble slate to try to get into this playoff picture, but I think they can do it. And it is very interesting to me to watch the Patriots in a division where at this stage they are watching other teams in the AFC East rise up while they move and shift into an offseason flush with intense questions. I love this matchup.
I'm with you. I think the parallels are there, Dan. A very similar style of defense, maybe not as deep, but coming on strong late. 8-5, that's the same record the Patriots had at this point. They didn't lose another game back in 2001. You got Xavier Howard. Maybe that reminds me of the 2019 Patriots with a Defensive Player of the Year candidate at cornerback making plays every week. And we talk about the mirror test, Dan. And I get in a few ways, it can go a few different ways, because to me, this is the game I feel most confident about all week, that the Dolphins will take care of business, that they're better, they're barely favored. And I think a season's worth of the desert underestimating the Dolphins and overestimating the Patriots comes home to roost here. Because what do the Patriots do better than the Dolphins? Absolutely nothing on either side of the ball. But I looked in the mirror and I can't do it. I remember Mark did this once, locking up against his own team, but it's just like, what sort of fun is the world if you're locking up against mirror? So that didn't pass my own mirror test, even though I think the Dolphins will win.
I mean, if you think of the Patriots are already pretty much dead in the water here, obviously, with their record at 6-7. But this is an elimination game for them. They have to win, or it is over, this incredible playoff streak. And then you look at rookie QBs are 7-21 versus Belichick all time. I'm not saying that Tua is going to go down in flames here, but would I be surprised if Belichick, with his back against the wall, cooks up a stellar game plan against the kid? Wouldn't be totally stunned at all. But the problem is with the Patriots, and this is coming back now, it seems like a weekly thing. After they got spanked by the Rams last Thursday, Bill Belichick is asked, is Cam Newton your quarterback, starting quarterback next week? He says, yes, he is. And it's almost like it doesn't really matter. Cam is no longer the same guy he used to be. And Jarrett Stidham, the quarterback, hasn't given us any reason to think he's the answer. And the rest of the roster is simply not good enough. So who starts for the quarterback for the Panther or for the Pats doesn't matter. It's more like Mark said, a question of what happens in the offseason with the Patriots. That's the most interesting thing about them at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's clearly a lack of interest or faith in Jarrett Stidham. I don't even know why the question keeps getting asked at this point. I mean, they would have put him in it multiple times. And I think there is, some understanding that Cam Newton is what he is right now. But this offense is so limited. And, they played well with the Dolphins last time. But this is a Dolphins team that's different than the last time they met. I mean, to coax the Chiefs into 4 turnovers, that's the DNA of this defense. And it's someone different every week stepping up. So I'm kind of with you, Greg, that I would be surprised if the Dolphins don't show up here entirely, create some havoc as they do on a weekly basis against a pretty defunct offense. I mean, the only way the Patriots are going to put holes into Miami, I think, is a tremendous rushing attack.
Right. Well, they play against the Miami strengths. Like, okay, you're great blitzing and you're great picking the ball off. We're never going to throw it. And that's what the Patriots, I think, will do. That's what they did in week 1. It worked. It can at least maybe keep the game close if their defense plays well. But I really like what I've seen out of Tua Tagovailoa. I don't think it totally shows up in the stats and everything that you see, but the injury apocalypse they had late in that game doesn't look like it's going to hurt him past this week. Looks like Devontae Parker is back. Jakeem Grant is back. Kyle Van Noy is back. Those are all key players. You don't get Mike Gesicki, but I think they have enough to get it done and stay in the race. This is almost a must-win for them too. I really think they are going to need to get to 11 wins to make the AFC playoffs. If they only get to 10, it might not be enough.
Yeah, and there is the added benefit here. You get a vitally important win here. You also say goodbye to the Patriots and kiss them off. And for every team in the AFC East, this has been a season of change and finally a release of all this tension that New England has brought to them over the years. That would feel good too. Don't feel good for
you. You're more invested in this Patriots season at this point than I am. I mean, no offense. It's just
no offense taken, but you have to understand, and I think you do, that there is a psychological impact that the Patriots had over the other 3 teams of the division over 20 years, and now the Dolphins get to be that team potentially to say bye, Bill. Bye. Go get your rebuilding started. Got a lot of work to do, buddy.
If he's watching this, he is going to pound you in the face.
Oh, he loves the show. Hey, Bill, what's up?
We'll be right back after this. We roll on. Greg, you're up.
All right. For this game coming up, I'm very excited this week to watch the Washington football team. How about that? Them getting a 3rd draft pick in this show, going up against the Seahawks. It's not a great slate of games here, but this football team has been resilient throughout the course of the season. I think it's a great test for Russell Wilson. I know Washington is banged up right now. They might not have Antonio Gibson. Dwayne Haskins is trending to start at quarterback, but that doesn't change the matchup. When Russell Wilson has the ball, he has not looked comfortable against non-Jets defense defenses in a long time. And Washington has exactly the type of defense I think that can make them uncomfortable with pressure up the middle. Jonathan Allen, to me, has not gotten enough credit this season as being kind of the key to that defensive line, always winning in the middle, helping out Chase Young, who's coming off his best game, Montez Sweat. All those guys against the Seahawks offensive line, I think can keep this game ugly, can keep it closer than the Seahawks are really comfortable with. And I think about that game when they were in Philadelphia and Seattle had a hard time putting away the Eagles. The Washington defense is good enough to ugly this thing up, and I think it's a perfect test for where Seattle's offense is at, because if they can't beat Washington, even if they win the game, if the offense is not playing well against Washington, good luck against the Rams next week. You're not going to win the NFC West. How about that? The Rams. Yeah, I know you love that, Mark Sessler.
Well, I love it as much as I need to. I would say, Seattle's offensive line's a little banged up. And I'm interested in watching Washington every week based on Chase Young at this point. I loved Chris Wessling comparing him to Lawrence Taylor to some degree. He's completely that type of game-changing defender. I feel like he's sort of a death from above operation that if he gets in your grill, he can end a team real quick. He did it last week, and Seattle was given tremendous trouble by the Giants' pass rush. So why not Chase Young against an offensive line that's struggling right now? On the flip side, I know we like to say Seattle, can't rush the passer. And I think we mentioned it on our flagship show that they lead the league in sacks since week 9. They're creating that in different ways. Jamal Adams has set an NFL record for sacks by a DB. So he's a big part of that. And, Washington's offense to me is far from electric. Without Gibson in there, if that's how that goes, they are just not the same operation. And I don't really care who's playing at quarterback. I will say this. These two teams right now would meet each other in the playoffs if the season ended today. Wow. It's a spicy matchup. And if Washington ever got to January, you have to look at Ron Rivera as a Coach of the Year candidate for what he's done from the minute he took over this job, what he's been through personally, and where this team is today.
Yeah, I don't put anything past Washington now. They've shown us enough against good teams and bad that they can win games, they can hang in games. And Chase Young is like, he's kind of something to learn from, because I feel like a month ago we even had this conversation on this podcast. Where's Chase Young? 2nd overall pick. He was supposed to be a dominant force. Well, sometimes guys get there in stages, and the fact that he's here now and he's at exactly what Washington selected him to be, which is a dominant force on the defensive line, and that changes so much about them. Washington is one of 3 teams that have 4 players with 5 sacks this year. They have 40 sacks on the year. And Russell Wilson, like we're saying, yes, take out the Jets game because that's basically a glorified exhibition for these contenders. And he can get frazzled in the face of pass rush, and he has a tendency, and this is part of what makes him a great quarterback too, to hold on to the ball, to try to extend plays. And I don't know if that's going to work with this Washington defense. So if the Seahawks do have a comfortable win here, it's going to be because the Washington offense imploded.
Right. I don't mind Haskins being back in there. I really enjoyed Alex Smith, coming in playing quarterback, the story. And I thought he played really well his first 2 appearances. I think he progressively got worse as teams got more tape on him. It's not just rookies that you can get more tape on and realize their limitations or what the offense doing. It's veterans too. And I think defenses had a good read on what Smith was doing. Maybe Haskins gives you a little more. Maybe he doesn't make quick enough decisions, and the Seahawks defense, which is playing better, just shuts him down. But to me, Gibson's the bigger story. They were just, to me, a 2-player offense with a little Logan Thomas. It was Gibson and McLaurin and a good coordinator. But now it's kind of just McLaurin and Thomas, and that's a lot to ask. The Seahawks should not stub their toe here. They should basically all but clinch a playoff spot, and then they have the division title is going to be up for grabs next week.
I think Seahawks fans are probably saying, excuse me, who's going to be covering DK Metcalf? Because if this is a relatively low-scoring game, you get a good game out of him, and this thing could be curtains. So, there could be some challenges on Washington's offense to keep up. And for all we've mentioned, that's why you'd have to tilt Seattle to some degree too. But it's kind of crazy where we are a year ago to today with the whole Washington program. They were as ultra boring as you could imagine a football team to be. And there's life now. There's narrative. There's things to like. I like the uniforms. I like the coach. I like the whole thing. So this is a very unusual scenario, Dan.
No, I'd like to see maybe in this offense, this offseason, the offense gets better and becomes a little more exciting, with all due respect to Alex Smith.
That's fair.
But on defense, certainly there's something to be excited about, and they're playing fun games. All right, it's snakes to you, Mr. Rosenthal.
All right, I'm going with another early game. Bears, Vikings. Can Mitchell Trubisky disappoint Bears fans one final time? This might be the biggest game of the week. It really is, because
everybody's so mean to Mitch. It is unbelievable what a punching bag that poor guy is. Just the way you set that up.
That's fair. But it's kind of an okie doke, because you just see the coverage in Chicago this week. They have so many people covering the game. They're so well represented in terms of their fans. And you just see, like, where has this offense been all season? Where was this Mitchell Trubisky? Is Nagy back in his 2018 bag? Wow, they've got a chance. And you can kind of see the hope building. And I keep thinking, well, they just played the Lions and the Texans. That's where it's been. And this Vikings defense isn't great, but it's a much better coach in Mike Zimmer. And so I have some doubts whether Mitch can keep up this hot streak.
I love loser goes.
I would point
games.
out that.
So we got 2, 6, and 7 teams here. So that's nice. That's fun.
Yeah.
It's basically a race to 9 and 7, it looks like, for that final. Things can change, obviously. But in the NFC, get to 9 wins, and you should be in good shape. So whoever loses this game, get ready for the golf course. Sizzler.
Well, I would point out that our longtime friend of the show, Bill Lazor, since he's taken over play calling duties, the offense is scoring 30 points a game. Well, I would say, it's one of those friendships where he has no idea that he's our friend. But
we use a sound effect and we talk about him a lot, but he's not our friend. But go ahead. I just want to make that clear to the Lazor family.
I would, as much as we're making friends with anyone, he's a friend. But David Montgomery has been a completely different back and a completely different rushing operation since Bill Lazor's taken over play. So I don't know what that means. It's just that their offense has finally been watchable. And if you're the Vikings and someone told you a week ago on this show, hey, they're going to have the ball for 40 minutes in a Mike Zimmer fever dream against the Bucs, they're going to basically just give the Bucs very little time to operate with. And your kicker is going to cost you 10 points, and you're not going to win that game. I mean, you've got to put up more points here. And I want to believe in the Vikings, as you have in the past, Stan. But to me, part of me is just like, oh, yeah, you're an 8-8 team, and you're going to take us on this snaking course all year long, and it's going to ultimately just result in a 500 record with some things to focus on in a very long winter's nap offseason.
I mean, the Vikings very easily could have won that game last week. Like you're saying, Dan Bailey completely gagged and he collapsed. And, that happens, especially when it's the Vikings. The kickers always tend to find a way to destroy a team's hopes. But it's like when you watch that game, did you see a Bucs team that was like blowing the Vikings out of the water?
No.
That felt like a game that could have absolutely went the other way without this calamity. So, but you have to, I will say this. Yes. For the past 3 weeks now, the Vikings have not been playing at a very high, crisp level. So if that's basically now the tenor of their season, I agree. 8-8 is where this is going to be. But who knows? Maybe they get right in this game and they do close out. I don't rule out them getting to 9 and 7 and getting that playoff pick, but they need to. They're in a bit of a funk. It's time to get out of it.
Yeah.
What do we do if the Bears make the playoffs? I mean, I think that would be one of the more unbelievable endings to this season. It's
very possible. They got the Jags next week. I think they finish with the Packers, who could be resting their starters in Week 17. That's why this game is so big. That's why this game is so big.
You're right. I mean, the Packers, if they rest, this is a huge game. Oh, no, the Bears fans, you guys are going to be so sucked in. I hope this doesn't go the way I think it goes, with Mitch killing you at the end. Oh, boy. All right. We'll find out what happens. We'll be right back. Time now for Road to Victory, presented by the United States Marine Corps. And yes, it is time to talk about the Cleveland Browns. And we just saw what they did with the Ravens, one of the great games. Well, at the end of this decade, this will be on the list of top 10 games of the decade. Unfortunately, Cleveland on the wrong side of the 47-42 final. But at the same time, a lot of optimism still reigns supreme in Cleveland. Now they go to the Meadowlands to face a Giants team that has all sorts of issues at quarterback Mark Sessler. This sets up well for the Browns to get that 10th win that gets them almost definitely into the playoffs. Almost definitely.
You'd think so. I would have felt a lot better about them playing the Giants back in week 4 or something. This team, this defense, they were lashed. Their offense was lashed by the Cardinals a week ago. But go inside that game, there was a turnover where the Cardinals had the ball deep in Giants territory, and that Giants defense put up a pretty valiant goal line stand, and that tells me who they are. Guys like Leonard Williams, Chase Coughlin, these guys are playing really well for Joe Judge. So I think this is an interesting matchup, and let's not look past the fact that because Jason Garrett has been put on the COVID list, suddenly, in one of the weirder scenarios of anything I've ever seen in football, Freddie Kitchens will be calling plays, the Browns' ex-head coach who was dismissed after 1 year, against the Browns. And it could be Colt McCoy at quarterback, and it could be Jabril Peppers at safety, the player that the Browns traded away in the Odell Beckham trade.
Forgot about that.
Maybe you got to get Odell Beckham on the Browns sideline throwing tomatoes at the Giants. How many revenge aspects could be going on here?
I mean, if you hit, there is a rule. Not everyone knows this, but if you get up to 3 revenge games for one side, they definitely win. So Big Blue all of a sudden looks like a favorite here.
That's amazing. And your son Colt has to be feeling conflicted. Mark, you famously named him after Colt McCoy, and you have to be like, no, right, son, we're rooting for the Browns tonight. Your namesake, who's going to rip my heart out with Freddie Kitchens. I was thinking about locking up this game for the Browns because I do feel like they are the much better team here, and that Kevin Stefanski is going to prove us something. But all this voodoo, I don't know. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to be on the wrong side of that voodoo.
You're nervous, though,
I think
Mark,
it matters.
because you're so close.
What's
now.
that?
You're so close.
I think the Browns, look at the one thing I'd say, and the way they got up for the Ravens game, and they've done a pretty good job of kind of, here's the game, here's the result, package it away, move on. I mean, they haven't lost 2 in a row all year. They've found a way to bounce back, and I trust them. I think they're flat out the better team. They're a great offense in the second half. We saw that against Baltimore. Other Browns teams, when you're down 34 to 20, they fold. Every Browns team I've seen this century folds in that situation. This team's a little bit different. They get Denzel Ward back. I think that matters a lot. I mean, you have to look at the Giants offense and say, if they're going to win this game, who's going to do it? Who do you lean on from the Giants offense and say, they're going to put up 24, 25 points and take care of Cleveland? I kind of struggle to find that character or two in the New York Big Blue offense.
Right, and you think about who's going to dictate. It's such a great coaching matchup. Patrick Graham, the Giants defensive coordinator, or Kevin Stefanski. Stefanski's like a pretty cool guy. He doesn't give off a lot, but I think about him as aggressive, and I think his offense is always dictating to the defense. He's always one step ahead. They spread the ball around, whereas Patrick Graham on the Giants side of the ball is almost always dictating defensively. He is not going to let an offense come to him. He's going to make them adjust to what he's trying to do. It's an offense-first league. I like the Browns' talent a little bit better on offense, but to me, that's a fascinating matchup, and it's one I think Stefanski can win because he's got the horses, he's got the offensive line, which to me is like the ultimate equalizer. Maybe the best offensive line in the NFL.
Have we given any thought, because the Browns are analytics mad. They love it. They have all sorts of resources tied into that. Kevin Stefanski, not the most animated guy. In fact, maybe the least animated guy I've ever seen. Plus, you have a mask over his face. Just don't want to rule it out. Is he a humanoid? Is it possible he's not a real person? And the Browns have taken the analytics tilt here all the way to the sideline with a robot. Throwing it out there.
Well, I would say this. If that's the case, I'm fine with that. It would raise ethical issues.
Is it legal? Is it by the
NFL's
laws
side?
of the league? I don't know.
It's a handsome robot.
I don't think it's in the laws
robot
of the league.
right there.
Good looking robot.
It would be, well, of course it would. If you're going to make a robot, you might as well make it handsome. It would be that would be the most Browns thing ever if they go 11-5 and then the NFL, uncovers what's going on. They're like, no, you're not going to the playoffs. You had a robot on the sideline. That would be terrible. But you know what, Mark? Back to serious reflection on this game. One thing Cleveland has done all year is take care of business, and it would be shocking if they don't do it here.
Really?
Everything's going to be fine.
Well, they have to.
All right.
They have to. And then they got the Jets next week. You got to get to 11 wins in this AFC. I think you do.
All right. That was Road to Victory, presented by the United States Marine Corps. We'll be right back. All right, moving along. Let's step back into the Saturday schedule and talk about the Carolina Panthers at Green Bay Packers. The Packers, of course, moved into the number one slot in the NFC playoff structure with a win last week coupled with the Saints loss. So they have it all out in front of them. If they win out, they have the number one seed. And they have the bye, the all-important bye. There's only one this year for each conference. And then, of course, home field for the two games in the NFC playoffs if they get that far. The Panthers, they've lost 7 of 8, as we know. So it feels like it's going to be more of the same. A hyper-motivated Packers team, Mark, with Aaron Rodgers, with a passer rating damn near 120 this year and knocking on the door of 40 touchdowns. It's been astounding to watch what he's done this year.
Well, and you had a sandwich bet way back in the summer that he could be the MVP, and he has 9 games.
Pro, and that's in the bag.
All
and
pro.
I think he'll win MVP too. I think he's going to get both.
I think he could pull off both of those awards. He has 9 games with 3 or more touchdown passes and 0 picks this season. That is the most by any quarterback in NFL history. So I don't know what else you want him to do. And I would say that the Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams connection is the most dangerous thing that any NFC playoff team can offer right now. It's been completely unstoppable. And, I know people are down on Mike Pettin, but I still think that Mike Pettin and the defense can do just enough. He's got a copy of the Warren Commission on his bookshelf back at home. I think the guy's an interesting character. We're going to get a little Matt Rule on national television. I like this game a lot. And you know what? Green Bay winning the bye, that's great. This is one of the true home field advantage setups. Because you probably are going to get a team from sunny little Tampa Bay coming into Green Bay. You're going to pull the Saints out of their pretty little dome. They're going to have to go into horrible weather, and this could be the year that Green Bay says, listen, this is the setup for us to get back to the Super Bowl. People said that we should have gotten to 5 or 6 other times. when Mike McCarthy was the
No,
coach.
you brought up the Bucks as the example. Tom Brady made his bones winning Super Bowls up in New England. So I don't know if he would be like taken aback by but that's beside the point.
But he also said he never wanted to move or be in the Northeast ever again. He has a nice tan in December. He's a warm weather guy
so
now.
He's
You know how that is
now.
when you move to LA.
All right, I like that narrative. That's
well,
good.
I'm not going that far, but
his arm's fine. I think Drew Brees is the guy that you want throwing the ball in frigid Lambeau in January. And yeah, you're right. They're only 3 wins away. It's hard to imagine the Panthers sticking in this game. Their offensive line, they're really an offense first team, is really banged up. They might be missing 2 or 3 starters. And you think about Rodgers this year compared to last year, and like the team's not that different. But to me, it's sort of a great example of that. Even the all-time greats, I think, go up and down with the people around them, whether that's coaching, continuity, synchronicity, everyone being on the same page. It really is the ultimate team sport. It's kind of a cliche, but I actually think we almost make the quarterbacks into too big a deal, because if someone as good as Aaron Rodgers in the middle of what should be his prime can still have 3 or 4 straight pretty down statistical years, to me that is kind of proof. Not that he's like part of the Dalton scale where he's rising and falling, but even the great ones need the entire team and this coaching staff to all be playing well together. And this is a perfect way to show it, because they didn't add anyone. It was like, like if we'd be putting it all on like a free agent edition or a draft pick if they had added anyone, but they didn't. Like, it's the same team, but they're all playing better.
No, I think there's a lot of logic to what you just said, but I don't want to take anything away from Rodgers and what it took for him to scale these heights again, these heights of supreme greatness. I mean, he's going to win potentially his 3rd MVP. And I think it took buy-in from Rodgers and maybe some changes to his mindset, maybe some changes physically in the offseason. I don't know so much about that. But to get to where he is now, this has been something that I think even transcends a little bit about those factors you talk about, something that he did that made him this way again. And it's been kind of a marvel to watch, really.
And you think about the Panthers defense, there's this whole idea of in the NFL, well, make teams go down the field 10, 12 plays. Eventually they'll make a mistake. That was the Lions' plan last week. I mean, the Packers offense did anything they wanted against the Lions, but it was only a touchdown game at the end because they slowed it down. It's like, good luck. That's not going to work against Rodgers. He's not going to make any of those mistakes. He's just going to take your 10 plays and he's going to score a touchdown. And he's going to cash those checks.
All I'd say is Carolina's not a team that gets blown out, though, this season. They're imperfect. They've got a ways to go. Teddy Bridgewater is not playing his best football right now, but they hang around in these games, and we're probably going to get a 78-yard Joey Sly field goal attempt at some point because Matt Rule seems obsessed with that. But I think this will be an interesting game, but Green Bay is too powerful.
Probably no Christian McCaffrey again, as he now deals with that thigh injury. So that obviously is not great. And watch out. It's going to be very frustrating for you Panthers fans because the Packers are converting 50% of their 3rd downs this year, which is the best rate in, I believe, almost 30 years. And the Panthers are at the bottom of the league just about. They give up about 51% of 3rd downs.
Oof.
A lot of conversions. A lot of conversions, and another huge day for Devontae Adams coming. Let's move on. Mark Sessler, back to the draft. Back to you.
Well, I got to pick a late game to organize how we cover these contests on Sunday. I'm going to go Philadelphia at Arizona. And, I was staying away from the Eagles the best I could for the last couple of months because, I'm sitting here trying to cover a game and I'd fall into a deep sleep about 65 minutes into half of their contests because they were one of the most boring attacks I've seen. With Jalen Hurts, I thought he brought life. He brought some urgency last week. The first quarterback around to run for 100 yards in his first game as he did. I think he brings an element to Philadelphia's offense where they kind of operate a little bit as a berserker right now, when we like to use that term for teams that can disrupt playoff hopefuls down the stretch. In Arizona right now, you have to deal with the Eagles, the 49ers, and the Rams. They are on the brink. And I'm not seeing the best version of their offense right now, but you did get a little bit more from Kyler Murray on the ground last week. I think he's healthy. He's ready to rumble. This is a fascinating quarterback matchup. I want to watch it for that reason. And I think the Cardinals' defense, they're pretty frisky. They're not perfect, but they have guys that seem to make plays every week. 8 sacks last week. Hassan Riddick had 5 of those. I mean, they show up. So this is an intriguing matchup against a bad Eagles offensive line.
Riddick had 12 and a half sacks his entire career. before Sunday. So that was a long overdue big afternoon for a guy that hasn't always lived up to the hype. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see Jalen Hurts. Everybody wants to see an Eagles team without Carson Wentz because that offense had flatlined, and now they have a pulse again. So, yes, I like that for draft pick purposes. Kyler Murray, I'm not going to go back to the well, Greg, because you don't like to hear it, especially for some reason. But, he had the shoulder on the Thursday night. If you look at the numbers and you study how this offense has changed in those 3 weeks, maybe it has nothing to do with it, but they are not doing anything outside the numbers anymore. They're not creating big plays outside the numbers since that Thursday night when he had the shoulder injury. Maybe it has nothing to do with it because he made some really nice throws where he showed off the arm strength, but they have not been as explosive this month.
They weren't in September, though, either. I mean, he ran well last week, and he threw the ball really well a couple weeks ago in terms of his arm strength. So I'm not worried about that. I would like the Eagles in this game to make some hay here, coming off their best offensive game of the year. It's almost like in Philly, they're trying not to hurt Carson Wentz's feelings by pointing that out. But the Eagles lost 3 defensive backs in that game. They lost their right tackle, Jack Driscoll, who was their backup right tackle, but actually been playing pretty well. So, like, right when you have something good happen, they lose another 4 starters. They're not even out of it. Forget Berserker. They're only a game and a half back, and they finished with Washington. So if they could win another one of these games and get a little bit of help from Washington, they're not out of it. And this Eagles team does have a history of doing that in December. I learned that, Mark, by reading one of my favorite books. This is called Fearless by Doug Peterson.
Oh, let's go.
Life lessons and wise thoughts and kind of just inspiration to me from a guy who reached the mountaintop and had accomplished everything in life, and just beautifully written. One of my favorite Christmas books to give to people, Fearless by Doug Peterson. I know you're a big fan, Mark.
And if I could
I
could piggyback off that, Mark, I just want to say, once a champion, always a champion.
Right,
so
that's right.
You should keep that in mind too before you criticize Doug Peterson, Mr. Sessler.
I'm not going to critique him. I mean, if he can again have Carson Wentz sidelined and the backup quarterback comes in and leads them to another playoff appearance, playoff wins, and a Super Bowl, write a sequel to that book.
Fearless
I will read
too.
that one.
Still Fearless.
I'll read that book. Fearless too.
Remaining
still fearless.
There was talk about, going into last week's game. The Eagles, they stink on offense so much. Does anybody believe that Doug Peterson is going to be able to adapt with this new quarterback? Well, it seemed like they did a little bit last week. So I'm with you. This is a good value pick, Mark. Good job. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back. Here are the lock of the week standings through week 14. I pick up a big one with the Ravens on Monday night up to 9-5. Greg still cruising at 12-2. Can he be caught? I don't know. Sessler falls one game off the pace. West takes an L, and Ricky, you know what? Mark loves the Browns, Erica. I told you, Ricky, don't pick the Browns. You're going to curse the Browns. And what happened?
Exactly what you said, Dan. You're right.
Well, very unpleasant.
I can't be caught by Ricky. She has been mathematically eliminated with 7 weeks to go. It's kind of like when the Jets were eliminated in week 11. It's like, okay, it's overdue. Let's just do this.
But you know what, Erica? You could play the berserker role down the stretch. If you get hot, don't give up. Don't give in. Let's hit the rest of the Week 15 games, starting with the Buffalo Bills and Denver Broncos. Greg, what are you looking at here?
Fun game. Drew Lock coming off his best game of the year. I think the Broncos are going to keep it close. They're as good a red zone defense as there is in the league. Like a spicy little NFL Network game here Saturday afternoon.
And I love that Drew Lock is absolutely going to get hot at the end of the year, and the Bronco fans are going to buy in with Elway for another season. Tampa Bay at Atlanta, Sessler, a little NFC South showdown with a lot on stake for the Bucs.
It's another weird scheduling tick in the NFC South where they play each other this week and then 2 weeks from now. And Matt Ryan not playing good football right now. And I would like to see the Bucs go drop a hammer for once. Convince me that you are what you say you are. You say you can do everything on offense, anything you want to do. Prove it. Yeah,
I'm with you. The Houston Texans travel up to Indy to face the Colts. Ricky, Colts need this one to stay in that division hunt.
They do, and I'm kind of over the Texans talk at the end of the year and how they have a chance. Like, Colts, come on, drop a hammer.
All right, drop that hammer. Up next, the San Francisco 49ers at Dallas Cowboys. Greg, this is not the 1992 NFC title game anymore.
No, it isn't, but it is the last chance for the Cowboys fans to get their hopes up after a phony win, and it's the last chance for us to give a little credit for Kyle Shanahan coaching up a bunch of zombie 49ers, and it's my chance to lock up the 49ers in a game that nobody cares about.
All right. Okay, respect that. Up next, the Jacksonville
Jaguars. That was the year I was born.
At Baltimore Ravens. Mark, Gardner Minshew is your boy. I need a win from these Jags to lock up the Jets without having to go winless. Give it to me, okay?
Well, not unless Gardner Minshew wants to pack on 80 pounds of muscle and play like defensive tackle against the way this Ravens run game is looking. They seem unstoppable to me. I think they go 11-5, and I don't think Gardner Minshew has much to say about it.
Oh, not what I want to hear. I want one more win for the Jags. The Detroit Lions at Tennessee Titans. Another Saturday game, Erica.
Yeah, we just don't talk about the Lions enough, and I think this is great, and it's actually Sunday, but the Lions, they're on fire. Tennessee by like 1 million, I don't know. Okay,
that seems like it could happen. Speaking of a favorite by 1 million, Jets at Rams, Greg, not pretty.
No, it won't be. Sam Darnold against this Rams defense sounds depressing. I don't know, though. Rams haven't done like a great job. When you think they're going to blow teams out, they don't always do it.
All right, close it out. The Pittsburgh Steelers at Cincinnati Bengals. Mark Sessler. Pittsburgh's got to figure things out on offense.
If you can't figure things out against the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm not sure what to think of you or what to make of you or how to, reconfigure my relationship with the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point. You don't win this thing, no one's taking you seriously. They're going to romp.
Perfect get-right game, it feels like, for the Steelers, who need to make some tweaks. All right, thank you to everybody for watching, and check out our recap of all these games on the Around the NFL podcast flagship show Sunday night. All right, everybody, enjoy your week.
Ooh, what is that relationship like, Mark?